Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's AKingsCreation bringing you guys another video. Now this is going to be an education video. We're going to try to get everybody to understand what is endurance and what is evasion and why you need to understand both of them. Some people in this game are still confused on whether they should go invasion route or endurance route. Well, I'm going to provide the best possible explanation of each two, and I will use some demonstrations from top players in this game, like for example Cannon, Whelps, and Ash, for example. Right, I'm just going to use these three because they use three different builds, endurance builds and evasion builds. All right, so we're going to use them as a demonstration as I explain it. So for everybody who doesn't know the difference between endurance and evasion, we're going to go ahead and break that down. Throne and Liberty offers players a choice between two crucial defensive stats, endurance and evasion. Understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each stat is vital for optimizing your character's build and gameplay experience. This video will dive into the intricacies of endurance versus evasion, exploring their impact on various aspects of the game. So first off, we're going to go ahead and start off with endurance, the damage reducer. Okay, before we take a deep dive into Cannon's SNS Greatsword build and why he's using endurance, we need to understand why it's called the damage reducer. Endurance is your shield against incoming attacks. It reduces the physical and magical damage you take, making you more resilient in combat. Higher endurance translates to fewer critical hits taken and a greater ability to withstand sustained damage. It's essential for tanking roles, where the primary responsibility is to absorb damage for the team. It's useful in challenging PvE encounters and large-scale PvP battles. It scales well with gear upgrades and defensive skills. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the endurance build from Cannon. All right, so now we know why he's using endurance and why he's going with melee endurance and range endurance, okay? Especially for large scale, a lot of people use flash waves or bows because they also want to heal their team. So there's going to be a lot of bows compared to staffs. Well, especially for my server in Kastleton, there's a lot more bows than staffs. So I can see why he would use melee endurance, because he's a tank and he has double melee weapons. So he will always be fighting up close and personal. So he needs melee endurance. And like I said, there's more bows than staffs. So he's going with range endurance. As you guys can see, he's using pieces of gear that provides melee endurance and range endurance. Shot Commander Visor is a really good build, especially for SNS users. And he's got two boss weapons. He's got the Nirma SNS, and then he's got a Dentus Greatsword, right? So he's pairing that gear set, the Shot Commander gear set, and the Blessed Templar Cloak for the damage reduction, and the Gilded Raven grips with magic endurance and range endurance. Now the reason why he's going with this is because it provides 5 points towards fortitude. For those who don't know what fortitude does, if you can get it to 30, you get an additional 100 points towards your endurance. So fortitude is like an endurance enhancer. All right, so that's why he's using the Gilded Raven grip. So to finish it off his build, like the accessories don't really matter too much. He's obviously going for more hit chance and more collision and bind resistance, but the main part here is this belt. He's using flame rot bindings because it gives melee endurance. It gives 170 melee endurance. This is exactly why he's building endurance, because he's a tank. He's an SNS. Okay, SNS users are tanks. If you are not using endurance for a tank build, you are messing up. So this is why I'm teaching you guys now, or expressing the difference between endurance and evasion. You kind of understand what play styles use what builds use what. Okay, so if you're an SNS, you need to use endurance because you want to absorb damage, right? That's your primary responsibility for your team or as a solo player. All right, so that is the difference. So that is the understanding of endurance. Okay, let me know if that doesn't make sense in the comments. It should make sense. It's pretty straightforward as I explain it, and as you guys can see, the top players are using it with this explanation. So let's go ahead and move on to evasion now. All right, evasion, the art of dodging. So before we look at Whelp's spear or dagger build, we're gonna go ahead and break down what is evasion and why it's important. Evasion is a chance-based stat that allows you to completely avoid incoming attacks. You see how when you're in the game and it says miss, that's because the evasion was working. When you are successfully evading an attack, you take no damage at all. This can be a powerful tool for survival, especially against powerful enemies with a high attack frequencies. Now, why is evasion important? For PvP, evasion is particularly valuable in PvP combat. It can help you disrupt your enemy's attack patterns, creating openings for your own attacks and reduce the damage you take overall. Now, what builds is this for? Well, it's for the assassin build, the long range bow builds, backline builds, stuff like that, right? Certain builds, some classes and builds benefit greatly from high evasion. For example, stealth builds can use evasion to avoid detection and remain undetected. So a lot of people who use daggers, for example, as you guys can see, Whelps is doing it. So let's go ahead and break down Whelps build. All right, so as you guys can see, Whelps is using melee evasion and range evasion. Once again, the same exact reason with cannon. A lot of people in large scale, small scale, a lot of people are using bows over staffs, even though staff is really good. A lot of people for large scale reasons uses that flash wave to heal their teammates once again. So you're going to be dealing with a lot of range attacks. And especially if you're using two melee weapons, again, you want to go ahead and use melee evasion and make that your primary. As you guys can see, Whelp's got 1900 and range evasion is 1300. All right. So this is the set that he's using. He's using the field general set with the heroic armor of resistance that gives you melee evasion. And then he's using roar set as well, which also gives you melee evasion and dexterity. He's going with 70 dex. I will be showcasing a version of perception, but for this version, he's using dex. Now, the reason why he's using dex is for the spear. The spear does a lot of damage, especially when you have a critical hit chance, because a lot of people are using endurance, and for some reason the spear doesn't have a lot of hit on it, so you will probably have a low hit, so people are probably more than likely going to avoid your damage if they have evasion. So you kind of want to go with a lot of critical hit when you are running the spear, but that's not the point I'm trying to break. That's not the part of this video. So what else does he have? Well, he has the forbidden sacred chain for the extra melee evasion. So he's stacking melee evasion with the melee evasion sets, and also he's adding more magic evasion and range evasion for his range evasion to get over 1000. He pretty much already did that. He's got some additional buffs from the passives that will boost these up some more, right? So keep in mind also, guys, that passives, read those passives on your daggers. It will show you that it increases your attack, your hit chance, your evasion. So make sure you have those equipped on your build, right? Because evasion is important for these type of builds, for assassin builds, right? So that's exactly why he's using evasion instead of endurance. Why? Because endurance is mainly for those SNS users, the people who are willing to be in the front line and tank all the damage, or take all the damage for the team, while the people in the back line, or the assassins, use evasion so they can go into the back or behind the Zergs, do use as much damage as they can, output, and then cloak and invade all the damage coming out of them, right? Or coming at them as they're running away, right? So a lot of people use smoke screen as well, right here, which he's using here. As you guys can see, there's smoke screen, phantom smoke screen there. So that also contributes to that. All right, so we're going to take a look at one more build, and we're going to look at Ash's build and see what he's using for his perception build. Okay, so before we dive into Ash's perception build, let's talk a little bit more about evasion. What other aspects of the game could it be used for? PvP duels. In 1v1 PvP encounters, evasion can be a decisive factor. It allows you to outmaneuver your opponent and create opportunities for counterattacks. Arena battles and certain boss fights as well is beneficial for this, okay? So keep in mind that 1v1s, mainly evasion will be better than endurance, okay? Let's go ahead and talk about Ash's build. He's using the spear dagger as well, just as much as Whelps, but instead of 70 or 60 dex, he's going with 60 perception. So now we're having less on our critical hit chance, but more on our hit chance. And I will be making a video later about hit chance versus critical hit chance as well, right? So he's going with 2100 melee evasion. So he's got more melee evasion, but he has less range evasion than whelps. Okay. Once again, these are still two of the biggest stats to worry about because we've already explained that there's a lot more bows than staff users, so we don't really focus on this too much. Now, there are builds that allow you to have one extra endurance stat. Like for example, you can get range endurance up to 800 if you maneuver some builds around. I do have a build video coming that has 800 range endurance on it with melee evasion and range evasion, so you can stack both of them, but you won't be able to get over 1,000 with all three, not yet at least, and not till T2, but I will be breaking down that video separately. But all right, I just want to point out that melee evasion and range evasion are two of the priority stats right now, and he's using Field General as well with the Roar Greaves as well, and nothing has changed here for these builds. The only difference is instead of using the Tapestry, he's using Immortal Reckoning for the bond resistance and stun resistance as well, and it gives you melee evasion. So that pretty much covers the difference between when you should use endurance and when you should use evasion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did this video help you out, kind of make it clear for you what you should use for your build and the difference between endurance and evasion? If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. People are wondering if I live stream. Yes, I only live stream for my members. Hey everyone, thank you for watching my video. If you guys are interested in supporting the channel, make sure you guys check my membership tab. I have supporter, big supporter, and huge supporter. Each tier comes with more benefits. So if you guys are interested, make sure you check it out. How do you access it? You can go to my about page if you're on the desktop and just scroll all the way down to memberships, join now, or you can check the description of each video. Thank you.